Welcome to The Art of Selling Art. My name is Jason. This is the TASA Masterclass. Now, I started TASA in 2018 to help early and mid-career artists understand the foundations of business so they could sell more art. This masterclass is broken up into 5 pieces. So we are going to talk about asking for the sale, which I know is a juicy topic that a lot of people want to get into. But if you didn't start with part 1, I highly suggest going back to it, because we started with what is sales and gave you a framework for the customer journey. Then we talked about marketing campaigns, we talked about messaging, and we talked about pricing. So customer, marketing campaigns, messaging, all of these things built on top of each other so that when you got here, you're prepared for this conversation. For instance, you wouldn't know who to price your work for if you didn't do the customer avatar from the customer journey part. You wouldn't understand how the marketing and messaging are connected and how messaging is going to be connected to price or asking for the sale, which we're going to talk about now, if you didn't go through those sections. So I know it's a lot of time. I think they're about 10 minutes each. But go back and do the work. Okay? So let's get started on asking for the sale. We're here at asking for the sale. And what I want you to understand is that if you went through the first parts, the person you are asking for the sale from is your ideal client who is in your pricing target range and who has learned about you enough to where they get to this point and you are pseudo internet or friends, basically. Okay? So asking for the sale. We need to understand what the ABCs of sales are. If you're my age, I'm 36, almost 37, or older, or maybe even a little bit younger, you probably heard of the ABCs as always be closing, which was like Alec Baldwin in that movie for whatever it was, or Boiler Room, or what have you. This goes back to, again, the first module where we talked about what is sales. Okay, this is when, or this was relevant when we had, as salespeople, all of the cards. But now everyone is coming to us with as much information as we have. And instead, the new ABCs of sales are attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. Okay? Attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. Where attunement is you getting in touch with the customer and understanding what their beliefs and reasons are for buying work. So again, customer avatar. Right? If you didn't watch that section, you need to understand the internal, external, philosophical problem of the person buying your work. So when you know what their reasons are for buying, you can use those reasons as motivation for overcoming objections. Okay? Attunement. Buoyancy is the ability to float in a sea of rejection. I cannot tell you, and I cannot express to you how important it is to understand how many times I've been told no. All right? Like, an uncountable amount of times in the last 11 years of being in business. Buoyancy is your ability to have all that rejection and continue going on, because the artists who persevere are the artists who win. All right? And I mean, not just stubbornly being an artist and waiting for sales, right? But actively working on your business. So buoyancy is your ability to float in all of that. Clarity is what you bring to your customers. So like I said, customers are coming to you with as much or more information about the art that they're looking for, or arts in general. And your job is to take all of that information and line it up so it makes sense to them. Okay? Attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. We talked about the 7 principles of marketing in the messaging section, which I think was part 3. We talked about authority, storytelling, and the why principle. So here I want to talk about social agreement, the why now, and consequences, and why they're relevant to asking for the sale. Social agreement is a big one. Social agreement you might recognize as the testimonials people put on their websites. Okay, a testimonial is a customer saying, "Hey, I really like this food." An endorsement is a public person, like a person with a lot of a following or a person with a lot of clout doing the same thing, okay? But those are all top level. At the core of social agreement is the fact or the tendency for people to adopt the beliefs of other people like them, Hi, Kitty. That we adopt the beliefs of other people like us, right? And that's really important because if you were to be in your storytelling portion of the conversation with the potential buyer and you tell them the story of someone who is not vibing or on the same frequency as the person you're speaking to, you're going to lose them. Their eyes are going to glaze over and their mind is going to wander and all those other distractions are going to fall in. Okay? You need to understand who your buyer is and use stories that are of people who are like the buyer in order to bring them around to the conversation. You wouldn't talk to the 40-year-old tech manager, right, or tech leader with stories that would be better suited for someone in their 25s and just starting out in business or just starting out in their career, because this person cannot visualize themselves as this person. Real life example. Go to my website, jasonmatias.com, and you'll see that in the first 5 seconds, there is the hero piece, and then there is a picture of a small family unit, successful tech people with 1 or 2 children with a piece of art. So if my ideal customer shows up on my website and they see this quickly, that they see a small family unit that could be them with pieces of art, suddenly it becomes much more relevant for who this art is for and whether or not they're in the right place or not. So social agreement is super, super important for you to understand your customer. All right. Why now? Why should anyone buy your work now versus waiting 2 months or going home and measuring or whatever other billion objections that you will get from potential collectors who are pretty close to buying, but they need to buy something now. All right. You need to give them a reason to act now. There's a really great parable that I heard from James Wedmore where you're a guy walking down the street and there's an old man with his dog sitting on in front of the porch, and the dog is whimpering. And the guy in the street asks the old man on the porch, "Why is the dog whimpering?" And the old man says, "Because he's sitting on a nail." And you're like, "What the hell? Why doesn't he get up?" And the old man says, "It would hurt more to get up than it does to just sit on the nail." Right? Meaning people are less likely to take an action. Subconsciously, like all the way down at our programming, we are less likely to take an action if that action costs us more energy than not taking that action. So finding a reason why someone should buy now. And that could be this offer ends at this time, this piece is limited and someone else might take it up from you. We only have a few minutes, but we could sit down and probably think of a bunch of these. Then there's consequences, which is pretty close to why now, but giving people a consequence for not purchasing. And that consequence should be aligned with their beliefs or their reasons for buying art anyway. For instance, if you don't collect this and that piece, you're still going to be upset with that piece at home, with that empty wall on your house. Okay. Or I actually used this one once. We're at an art show. This is day 2 of a 10-day show and 90,000 people are going to come. If you don't collect this piece, then it's going to be 45 days for someone else to get it. Plus, this is an edition number 1, and there will never be another first edition of this piece. And eventually this woman did come back. She bought the piece and she bought a second one. So why now and consequences, understanding the ramifications for the person who's buying for not collecting the work right now. So once you've gone through that, once you've created the social agreement and you've identified with the person and you've gone through the storytelling and they see you as an authority in your business on your art, you have to ask for the sale. And if you haven't done that already, now is the time. And you can take a sales conversation or a story conversation and turn it into a sales conversation by changing the conversation to less about story and more about their home or the place that they think they're going to buy the work. How does this color look for you? Right? How does this color match the paint on your walls or your furniture? Or is this size going to fit in your home? Tell me about the space you're looking for. You change the conversation and then ask for the sale. And after you've asked for the sale, that's when you have to wait. And this is especially true because of online interactions where it may take a day or two for someone to actually answer you back, but you have to wait. And if it does take them an extended amount of time, you could do a follow-up, but your follow-up will not change the price or not change the offer you made. Okay? And once you get that connection, once you get that response, you get a commitment. So if they're not buying on the spot, they have to talk to their partner. They have to measure their wall. Or something I get a lot is they haven't been to their second home this season, so it'll be a while before they go back. And that's like wildly frustrating. Anyway, once you get that commitment, you have to meet that commitment. Okay, so if the collector says, I need to go home and measure my wall, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to call you later tonight and we can talk about your wall. We can have a FaceTime, right? And if they say yes, then you have to make that call. You can't chicken out, right? You can't let anything get in the way, because once you break that social contract, you are going to be far less likely to close that sale, okay? And then you have to follow up. I always say I'm like a follow-up Nazi. Like, I'm a follow-up drill sergeant. I follow up like, I just follow up a lot. Right? I don't let sales go until I get a no. And so many of my collectors have thanked me for the amount and persistence of following up, because they're just busy. They have all of those distractions we talked about in one of the other sections, and they want the art, but they get distracted every time it comes up, right? Or they just haven't given you enough time to make that sale. And they know they need to, but they haven't. So every person who's purchased from me, whom I've had to follow up with, has thanked me for helping them buy the art. And the few who say no, great. The faster I get a no, the faster I can move on to someone else. And the people who don't say anything to me, well, screw them. Okay, you do your due diligence in following up. And with online sales, more than anything, follow-ups are key. Okay, follow-ups come in the form of emails, phone calls, retargeting on social media ads, and just staying in touch with people. All right, so those are the 5 sections. Okay, we started with what is sales, and we ended with asking for the sale. And in between, we talked about the journey, the marketing campaigns, the messaging, and the pricing. And all of this is a significant part of the art of selling art, plus the community, plus the access to me as a coach, and all of the future developments that come along with this program. So if you've made it this far and you are interested in the art of selling art as a program, as a membership, as a place for you to grow your business alongside other artists and myself, then find us, The Art of Selling Art, theartofselling.art. Check out the program, check out the page, shoot me a message on social media, or join one of our groups on Discord or Facebook, and let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to having you as a member. I look forward to you taking this information and showing it to other artists, because we all will do better if we all do better. And I look forward to hearing and reading your comments about this program. Cheers.